Hello and welcome to Powered by Intuition. Today, if you are watching the recap of this, I am behind on the live stream version, and that's okay. So, since this circumstance is happening right now, this is something I'm going to cover. That's kind of what intuition does. You let the circumstances kind of dictate where you're going to go with this. So, this must be important for someone to hear today. And, you know, it, give or take on these situations. Hi, Obi. Today, I had to make a priority. I had to prioritize myself, my livelihood, and the work that I am blessed and abundant to be receiving. And because this isn't accruing income yet, I look forward to it getting there very soon. So please make sure that you are liking and following my accounts. I made decisive action that this can be moved at any point in time. Of course, it's going to be repurposed into a podcast, and maybe you're listening to that podcast right now. But that can happen at any time. However, me missing out on jobs, me not being dependable to my clients is not okay with me. So making that executive decision in my life, I am showing up and appearing here about 30 minutes late, and that's okay. Because of that prioritization, because of that consideration, because I am not going to stress myself out. I'm not going to kick my ass. I'm not going to do anything against myself because I made a choice. And that choice is a choice that is a decisive action that I know benefits me more than showing up here on time tonight. So I wanted to kind of cover that because a lot of people go into the shame, the not enough, the freaking out, the panic, the rhetoric that maybe someone else has drummed into their brain and programmed within them to kind of have this freak out that turns catastrophic, that leads to, maybe a person speeding down the street to get to their studio, or that could cause an accident. Like, so many things could happen if you dive into the panic mode. And this is something where it's like, I made this decision. I know that this decision in this moment is the best decision for the moment. And that is okay. And I'm going to stay with that is okay because X, Y, and Z, because it benefits my livelihood, because I'm being dependable to my clients, because I'm going to be safe on my way home, and I'm going to not freak out over this. So I feel like some people out there really get to consider this and being okay with situations happening and making executive decisions and not having to really sit there and defend your decisions, but be at peace with them, if that makes any sense. So there's no shame. There's no oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Freaking out. There's none of that. I'm completely I'm happy. I grabbed my kombucha. It's nearly Halloween season, so I'm chill. I'm not going to stress myself out. I'm going to enjoy this moment. And I think this is such a impactful teaching moment, especially for those that deal with a lot of shame dynamics because of what's been pre-programmed into them. Thank you so much, Crohn's Nest. Thank you for joining in on the other platform. And I also see, I believe it's Michael, who is also, yes, Michael, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining in. So today on the agenda, oh my goodness. First off, tapping into this week and speaking of today, it's been a lot. It's been back to back to back, really manipulating my schedule to accommodate and just having things stack up just so quickly, which has been, both a blessing and also wow, I've been going strong since 6 a.m., had a 1 hour break today, which is good. At least I'm getting a break in, right? And yeah, I got it all accomplished. And that's what matters. I mean, I still have more to do, but I got a bulk of my day accomplished, even got a pizza for the kid. Like everything is good. And being in that chill state has been so, it's nice. It's a good feeling. Although, I did wake up kind of feeling tired, but that kind of kept me in this mellow, like Zen state all day, which has been nice. And that's a way that you can manage your energy when you're in a state that's more tapped into flow rather than chaos. Even though there could be chaos around you and it seems very chaotic, it's still, there's flow to it. Like everything is flowing as it should be and as best as it can be. And that's what I'm very thankful and grateful for. And focusing on the things that are going right rather than, like fumbles or mistakes this morning. Um, one of the things I do some gig work. So the app that I use for gig work had an issue, but I spotted it in time and everything's handled. Everything was good. There were no issues. Like everything was in its time and in its place and it worked out perfectly. So instead of freaking out, I was like, okay, well, we'll handle this. We'll figure it out. We'll take care of it. I know how to deal with tech stuff. It worked perfectly. So there was that. I mean, there was one mistake, but it wasn't anything, severely detrimental. That's what I could say. But I'm here and I'm ready. So let's dive into some of the themes that came up rather than the ones that have, suddenly appeared within the parameter of the day. And this is focus, keying into how to focus and how to navigate the distractions that try to pull us off and away from us being aware of the situations that are happening around us, us being on top of these situations. When you are aware of something, you can now be on top of it. You can now navigate it better. You can now be apprised of the situation so that you can make decisions more effectively, more appropriately, and you are prepared rather than reactionary. So one of the things that I've noticed, and this is part of intuition, is having awareness of situations. And then that awareness kind of expands into like a principle that I talk about a lot. And there's been a couple of them that I talk about. If this, then that. So if I'm seeing these sort of behaviors and I'm observing them and I'm picking up, then this might be happening. So let me correlate the dots, because part of my intuition is like very expansive, looking at different things. Data comes to me, information comes to me, and part of this series is to share that data and information to support people through these sorts of seasons, to be able to learn to have critical thinking, to be able to see things a little differently, to navigate your life for the better. And if you've not been apprised of this, there is a currency thing being built called BRICS. And it is a conglomerate of multiple different companies that are creating a currency that is backed by cryptocurrency. Now, within the scope of our situation, I've been trying to keep apprised of BRICS as much as possible, but I don't have a lot of information on it. I know that it's out there. I know that it's being built, and it seems that progress is kind of a little slow. I could be wrong on this, but I just haven't been getting the information, and that's kind of potentially by design within, how well the media is working right now. And probably I can do better at researching it more. But I know that this entity exists. Now, on the flip side, what a lot of people I feel have missed is within the past few weeks, there were multiple bills that were passed. And not a lot of people are aware of this. A lot of people are aware of the Genius Act, and that has to do with cryptocurrency. Not a lot of people are aware that there were two other acts or bills passed at the same time. And this has kind of opened the floodgates for not only backing the American dollar with cryptocurrency, but also now leveraging cryptocurrency by design within our system. This gets interesting because a lot of people have concerns, reservations about it that are not being addressed, which sucks. A lot of people are not aware of this. A lot of people are not into cryptocurrency, and there's a lot of scams out there that people fall for. There's a huge learning curve around it. And if you're not in it, you stand to lose more than gain. So, as I said, there's a lot to learn. I am not the greatest expert on it, but the general idea behind cryptocurrency, and let me preface this first. The United States dollar is not backed by gold anymore. It's not the gold standard. So even though we have a physical bill in our hands that represents value, that value obviously fluctuates. The value of American dollar has depreciated at this point in time because we are in this systemic change over from physical money to digital currency. And obviously, there's concerns on that, but we also get to realize we're already dealing mostly in digital currency than physical currency. A lot of businesses since COVID have stopped taking cash. And if you haven't encountered this, you're in a unique position and in a unique area. But that's something that's happened at least here in Los Angeles, where we are gradually shifting to a full digital currency. And we've already been there. Whenever you use a credit card, you are using digital currency that is not real and that's not actually there, which is why people tend to overspend and, rack up the debt and all that stuff. I'm guilty as well on that. But that's one aspect to understand. We're already in digital currency. And a lot of people don't realize that, even though we still have, a physical dollar bill, coins, change to kind of back that up. But we're not on the gold standard anymore. So we don't have gold to back that up. But regardless, you still have, some random thing to back it up. Now, cryptocurrency acts in a way of backing it up as things are on a blockchain. And that's it's a ledger. So I can take this booklet and I can say, all right, I have this little notebook here. I gave $10 to Aunt Cat. That is, and if I write that down here, that $10 to Aunt Cat is a block. Now that is a block on a ledger, on a blockchain. This is a ledger. So not too confusing if you're aware of the lingo. And sometimes for some people who are not financially aware, that lingo might be challenging. Most people don't know or understand maintaining a ledger, maintaining a checkbook, balancing a checkbook. It's kind of the same thing. It's a block of data that is stored on a chain that is stored within a cloud computing system is the best way to describe it. And that computing system, that cloud computing system is called the people that are part of that. It's not like a centralized hub like Cloudflare. It's decentralized. So you have miners that host the data, and that data can be hosted anywhere at any time all around the world. So it just depends on the miners that are, hoping to keep a run of that information. And now cryptocurrency is currency. It's a currency exchange that if you're dealing with altcoins, also known as isht coins, there's a swear word with that. Those are like the altcoins or the theme coins, let's call them that. The little theme coins like, let's go with the one that, was the most well-known, Dogecoin. So that is known as a coin. And it's like a theme park token, or if you're old school and used to get tokens at, like, let's say an arcade, for playing games, and you can take those tokens in to, cash out a prize. That's kind of like the coins. Okay. And then you have the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or a DAO, which is a stable coin. So there's different varieties and different types of coins. So just think of it as like, oh, you have these coins that are like theme park tokens, okay? It's money that you can spend at the theme park and it doesn't have a lot of value, but maybe it's a collector's item later on. And then you have currency that is designed to be stable, that is more for exchange purposes. And that's the stable coin. And then you have like things like Bitcoin or Ethereum. These back businesses for the most part. Bitcoin is kind of just like the band-aid, the namesake of this currency type and this currency build. So that's kind of like a staple behind everything. You've probably heard of Bitcoin, right? And you probably conflate cryptocurrency with Bitcoin. That is kind of a built-in thing, and it's not going to go away. And if it does go away, it's not going to be easy. So when it comes to this, Bitcoin is kind of like currency exchange. It is like the stock market. Currency exchange is a little different from the stock market, okay? So it's currency, right? A currency exchange is a normal thing that happens in this day and age. It is nothing different from what is happening now. And so when you kind of connect the dots on that, on what already exists and what this is built from, because it is all built from something that has existed before, it's just a connecting factor of all these different points within what has already been here before. And when you understand that, you begin to understand what cryptocurrency is. It is not something that is extremely different. So for those who bring in that adaptation of like, oh, this is currency exchange, instead of being backed by a country, it's more backed by a business or by a concept, okay? Or art when it comes to NFTs or, you know, different things. So that is kind of like the simple rundown of what is a cryptocurrency. Now, there is a cryptocurrency arms race to make governance and a government and a country run more on the cryptocurrency paradigm. Get in now. Get in now. And there's lots of ways to do that. I do have a blog post on Obscuram about that, which is like ways to make money in 2025. So go check that out on obscuram.com. But I give you the avenues to do it where you can begin exploring it. You have to research what it is that you're doing, because there's a lot of confusion out there. The altcoins, or the coins, or to keep things PC, I'm using the sound effect. But those are always going to be, that's like gambling. Okay. That's not, it's gambling. Point blank. You may win and you may lose. Okay. Never invest in anything you're not willing to lose. Which is why I give strategies on people being able to invest things that they don't lose. You join the app, you get a bonus, you use that bonus, you leverage it, you do your research, you do your due diligence, and then, you know, if you have any questions, if you need support on sniffing out a rat, let me know, because I'm really skilled at that. Especially, you know, a friend brought up something recently where they were like, hey, can you check out this entity? And within the first few minutes, and once again, this is something that I mentioned before in a previous episode, where I've kind of cultivated being able to spot certain things because of building out a value system. I'll bring this back later, but I was able to spot that this cryptocurrency scheme sounds nice, seems great. It's not really going to go anywhere. It's not going to bring any income. So this person was like, well, should I volunteer for this organization? Should I try to be a facilitator for this? And I went, if you like charity, if you like doing charity work, absolutely, because that's all this is going to be. It's not going to be anything more than that. These people are so unserious, poo-pooing on a white paper, which is industry standard for most cryptocurrency entities. It's like the business plan. They poo-pooed that, and then they had a lot of misinformation on other things, and I was like, no. And then they wrote a contract just using straight ChatGPT, had no legal knowledge, didn't know what they were doing, and it was a mess. It was so bad. It was so bad. But that's an idea of things to watch out for. Look at the contracts, read all of the terms. There's things, there's crypto schemes that are the rug pulls where you can actually make money on them as long as you're aware of what you're getting into. But you have to be aware of what you're getting into, and you have to know what to look for. And you're not going to know that unless you've been in this industry and have credible people to ask about, like, hey, what do you think about this? What's going on with this? And that's what happened with my connection. They were like, hey, can you check this out? What do you think about this? And I was like, yeah, it's a great concept. Sounds good. Very altruistic, but they are so unserious about it. So, I mean, yes, they have a steady stream of income that's backing it, but it's not going to blow up or be a big thing, and it's not going to really accrue any value for time spent. It's more for a different country, which it's going to do great in, actually, but not here in the States, likely. So, even that, once again, here in the States, harkening back to like this cryptocurrency arms race that's happening. So it's the United States going up against the BRICS system. And from, the standpoint of what I know, which is, I'm more affiliated with people and the entities here, the United States has pulled all the stops and is going full speed ahead to kind of bypass the regulations and the hurdles and discussions that is happening with the BRICS system right now, just to create that significant foothold within the industry, within these changes. And so we'll see what ultimately happens with that. It is a very one-sided, myopic sort of paradigm, because it is going to leave a lot of people out. And that is why I'm sharing about this, because a lot of people need to start now doing their research, getting in now, and starting to understand what it is that we are shifting towards and be ready for that shift, because it is happening. It is happening. But there will be a lot of people that will be left behind if they're not aware or apprised of it. So, let me see. What else is there? Hi, Ober. Do you want to say hi? Yeah. Cute kitty cat. All right. So, let me see here. There. Oh, what's the other thing that I want to talk about? Oh, yes. Stop. Oh, gosh. There are so many trolls, so much troll paradigm online right now. And it is really designed to keep people distracted, to keep you out of the know of situations. Like, most people didn't know that there were 3 crypto bills passed, that there are big moves, big, huge moves being made right now within the sphere of cryptocurrency. It's moving hard and fast. And yeah, so most people are not aware of that. The other thing is advances made by CERN. CERN did actually turn lead into gold. Now, this kind of harkens back to, all right, so we know this is possible. Science has figured out how this is possible. It's not really simple, but it seems kind of simple. And then you have to question, well, what did the ancients know? What did they really know? If they're sitting here trying to turn lead into gold and they know that lead can turn into gold, and I think there's, what is it, 2 particles need to be removed for lead to turn into gold, and CERN did it through high magnetism. What did they know that we don't? What did they figure out that we lost? What sort of information? And thank you so much for the likes. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness, there's 32 messages over here. Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. Welcome. So if they knew that, then now we have all these questions, right? If this, then that. And more so, if this, then that leads you down to that curiosity pathway. And then you can use different sort of ways to logically deduce from that pathway, but ask the questions. So it's very fascinating that there is just that little, almost tiny tweak to lead to make it into gold. So there is that aspect. But bringing that into, well, what did people back in what we could consider ancient times really know? And this brings me to a very interesting discussion this week where I got to meet a major producer, and he gave me a whole tour of his place, which is an incredible art museum. It's gorgeous, right? Yep, looking at you. You would have loved it. And it was very fascinating because within a span of 15 minutes, we transversed so many subject matters. It was incredible. Transversing subject matter of art, transversing the subject matter of, understanding elders and elder generation. So his father was from what's known as the greatest generation, which are the generation that created vaccines. And I guess his dad had a part in that, discovered, an incredible, it discovered Dramamine and some other things. And then of course, he's just as brilliant. He went through the whole history of like the area where we're at, how even during the Northridge earthquake, some of the houses right across the street fell. And yeah, people did not survive that. And I was like, whoa, that made it suddenly very real to me because I was, a ways away, but still felt it significantly. And that was just like, oh, that was such a, that's challenging, but he mentioned how he, had a huge property there, how he developed the land, what the land is like looking at the area, wildlife, Tai Chi, I Ching, like we went Taoist, like all of these subject matter within the span of 15 minutes. And one of the greatest things that, I took from that, and I'm still like processing all the information. It was a great conversation. Obviously, there's more to it. I just don't want to add that stuff because it's not like, wow, yay, celebrities. I'm in that all the time. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is life for me. But the most important thing is like knowing history, because one of the aspect of the conversations was we are in a period of redo. Like he's a silent generation person, born right on the cusp of the Great Depression. And so that wisdom and that knowledge and that antiquated understanding of how to be, not only how to behave, which I think a lot of us are missing, how to do life, how to live in community, how to look at history and understand, okay, this happened. Oh, wow, this is happening again. Like that came up in the conversation. I was like, yeah, I've noticed that too, especially with this whole, scenario. I have my great grandmother's memoirs, and those have so served and supported me having that information, because I can look back at that and be like, oh yeah, nope, nope, they've gone through this too. All right, yeah, could be worse. Could have lost, my entire family like my grandma did. She was the only one that survived because she did chamomile tea instead of what the doctors were peddling, which was a white powder. I have no idea what that was. But it didn't help people to get better. So, yeah, she was the only one of the family out there in Italy that was left. Her brothers already came out here. So, but that was, the Spanish flu. So she went through that. She went through, World War One, World War Two, Vietnam War. Like, yeah, she went through all of those situations. Um, you know, Great Depression, downturn, like there was like rapid inflation in the 70s that nobody really talks about for whatever reason. So there was some crazy stuff happened in the 70s, and obviously, 60s, all that stuff. Like she went through all of that. She went through all of it. And not all of it's mentioned in her memoirs, but there's that understanding of history of like, oh yeah, all this stuff was happening during the time that she was alive and that she was here. And when I can reflect on that and reflect on, well, she had a very full and a very long life, regardless of that, she kept her head straight. She had her senses intact. And that's what matters. When you are in community, when you know how to move through life and through the world with more acknowledgement and embracing what comes instead of running away from it, you're going to fare better. And then the other aspect that came up with this conversation with this gentleman was he's 87. He swims every morning. He does Tai Chi. He swims, I think, 8 or 9 laps every morning in his pool. Does Tai Chi, meditates, reads the I Ching every day, and then walks 2 miles. That's how I encountered it, because he was doing the actually a little over 2-mile walk. And he's 87. And he has his faculties. Like he's on it. He has a good memory. Like everything's there. And it's just like, huh. I see so many people doing this biohacking thing of like injecting themselves with stuff and doing all these different supplement things and blah, 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 blah. And these supplements have high lead in them. And then, you never know what all these different cocktails of whatever they're doing, how they're going to affect them in the long run. And the one thing that they're avoiding is looking at the people that are doing it. Deep breath here. When you want something, when you want to achieve something, you have to look towards those who are doing it, and you have to figure out what is it that they're doing right. Because we can look at the science and we can look at the data, and sometimes that science and that data is rife with bias and BS. And a lot of these people are doing just throwing darts at the wall. And I'm like, you have Dick Van Dyke, who is he 100 this year? He's either 100 this year or next year. And that dude's still going. And he still has his faculties intact. He was still acting like as of last year, probably still acting now a little bit. But you have to look towards the people that are making it happen. There in December, he turns 100. Yep. You have to look towards those people, and you need to get that information from them of like, what did you do to make this happen? How? How did you make this happen? Like, what is your secret to longevity? What are you doing? And observe that and take in the data. And it's baffling to me that a lot of biohackers don't. They're actually running away from aging rather than acknowledging, embracing, and hitting it head on of being like, what are these, of really taking in the real data that's out there instead of doing these, well, I'm going to default to science that hasn't even been proven at all. So it's interesting. And a lot of that stuff, like you can look at Brian Johnson and things that he's doing. It may work and it may not. We don't know. He hasn't hit that point of longevity, and it's going to take him his lifetime to make that happen, to make that data complete. And we won't know that until he reaches 100 years and maybe bypasses that. But what we have right now is the actual living people that have done it. And, when it comes to the idea of Brian Johnson, at the end of the day, he has a ton of money to throw at his research, which is great. Like, there's no problems with that. But it's all about sales. It's not about what is real. And this brings me to the kind of seeing through the deception and the BS. You have to look at what's real. If someone is sitting there talking about longevity and they are not 100 years old, it's not real. It's not real. Let me shout it from the heavens. It is not real. F. David Asbury. He's not doing it yet. He's not there. It is not real. And someone actually has outed him for doing plastic surgery, by the way. And it was a plastic surgeon online. But that's when you got to start looking at it. It's like, they can talk longevity all they want. They can talk, well, here's the telomeres and there's this and there's that. But is it actually happening? They are not there yet. So you have to rely on those who are actually doing it and are successful at it, because everything else is BS until it's actually proven, and it hasn't been proven. It doesn't matter about their studies. It doesn't matter about their numbers. They're not even studying on humans. So when you look at it, when you really look at something, you have to go, are they trying to sell me on something, or is this real? Is this a real thing? And a lot of times they're trying to sell you on BS. And it's the same thing with the paradigm of the T-rolls that have been just so pervasive online. And so many people are not able to see the difference between AI and what's real. And there's been some fun AI videos where I'm just like, wow, AI has really progressed on its videos, where it shows, a person that seems distinguished talking on stage, or, giving a dissertation about their expertise. They're completely fake. It's an AI script. They're an AI figure. They're not real. Social media is not real. When you have these connections, when you actually have these critical discussions, when you take things off that platform and you begin to connect, it creates a very different picture of a person's life, of a person's experience, of what really matters. And so start focusing on that this week. And let me bring up something real quick. Let me see about going into a little bit of the critical thinking aspect of the Resilience Journal. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, this is just a little teaser, okay? But we need to start connecting the dots, because people will lead you down a pathway of deception. People will lead you down a dangerous pathway that's not going to serve or support you. Before I get to this little section of the Resilience Journal, there was something recently that came up very familiar character on social media who is all about talking about kindness and being appropriate and being nice, has recently been outed for not being that. And that's fine. But there is also a problem when you look at the whole picture of this scenario of people being like, yeah, this influencer is great and they're perfect and they're doing this right and they're a big person and there's this big figure, and then all of a sudden they show that they're human. And the idea of pedestalizing them, they fall from that grace and they suddenly defy our opinions or the make-believe that they may or may not have intended for us to have about them, because we forget that they are human. And then we also forget that we mess up too. Being human is far from being perfect. We got to stop pedestalizing people. We got to go, okay, you messed up. Here's how you can make it right. Here's what I want to see. Instead of, you messed up. You're this, you're that, you're that, you're that, you're that. No, apologies are not always the best thing. And learning happens in the doing, in the changes that proceed from that mistake. Learning happens from the doing and the changes that proceed from that. So when the change happens, when the learning is enacted upon, that's when you know the person is in integrity with learning from their mistake. But we got to give people the chance. We've got to be clear on, hey, here's what I would like to see. And we got to stop making excuses for people too. I saw people defending him. His girlfriend, who is not the audience that is concerned with the influencer's behavior, but yet she's standing as if she is, and she is not at all. And that was not okay. And here's why it's twofold. Yes, it does a disservice to those who are affected by it and impacted by it. Number one. Number two, there's a flip side to that. The flip side is indulging abusive behavior towards her. So when you're defending someone in that way, where it is not really your place to defend them, like the person is a man, he put his foot in his mouth, let him be a man, let him work through his own issues, right? As a woman, I want to trust that if my guy messes up, he's going to be in integrity and work through it. I'm going to either be like, do you need help? Great. Let me support you on this. Here's how you make it right. I'm seeing people need this. Please do it. But I don't want to really, I've learned my lesson in going out there to defend a man's honor, because that's actually doing a disservice to his honor. It's showing that he is not able to defend himself. And when a man is not able to defend themselves, they are in an emasculated state. And that is a danger zone. When men don't feel manly enough, they will try to prove it in ways that are adverse. And that typically comes from a way of control. So that's why I'm like, okay, so you're standing up and you're defending him and you're excusing his behavior. What else behind the scenes is being excused? So I don't just look at things as a, one-sided perspective. A lot of times when people do certain behaviors, it's a double-edged sword. So yes, grace comes in the form of what has been learned. But it also comes in the form of, hey, this person can make it right. What is sufficient? What is sufficient? And once again, realistic for this person to do to have me go, okay, thank you for making this right. I'm not going to trust you again, but okay. Like, you did something great. That's good. But I see a lot of people saying, oh, that's not enough. That's not good. Your apology stinks, blah, 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 blah. But these people don't know how it needs to be done. And it does need to be done through some sort of concrete action that has a display of like, hey, I've learned this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to contribute to like the ACLU, or I'm going to contribute directly to this person's case who's dealing with this situation that, you know, I may have exasperated, that I may have made worse in some way. You haven't learned until you take action towards that learning. So let's dive into a little bit of this critical thinking exercises. So yeah, these ones are pretty meaty. But here's what I'm going to leave those of you watching with on this episode. Get a pen, write this down. Okay. And then, you know, there will be replay is on the tube. So if you are on this platform over here that I'm pointing at, hop over, check out the bio, links in there, just to get the replay for now until I get the podcast up and going, which is, I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm working on it. But get ready. Reflect on how social media affects your mood and relationships. Reflect on how social media affects your mood and relationships. Reflect on how social media affects your mood and relationships. Write about any instances where excessive use has impacted your well-being. I'm going to read that 2 more times as well. Write about any instances where excessive use of social media has impacted your well-being. So I'm going to read the whole thing. Reflect on how social media affects your mood and relationships. Write about any instances where excessive use has impacted your well-being. And I put an example here. Did you experience insomnia, irritability, anxiety, depression? So pay attention to how social media is affecting you. Is it stealing your energy? Do you feel just drained after using it? I know on the clock app, I've started just feeling drained to where I'm like, I need to protect my energy. And there's a lot underneath that. There's certain flicker rate things that are going on within the scope of these situations. So something to be mindful of how is it making you feel? How long can you stand being on before you just feel like, ugh? I've been dealing with a lot of the tea rolls, and they are bothering the hell out of me. Because it's just like, here, I'm going to play dumb and act like I didn't actually read what you said, and I'm going to be in red herring mode. And it's annoying because that's all they do. That's the only trope that they have is like red herring. I didn't pay attention. I didn't read anything you said. I didn't listen to anything. Like, and I'm going to intentionally just confuse what you said and then attack you over it. And it's like, this is really annoying and abusive. It's just like, block, we're done. But yeah, like building up the resilience, building up the tolerance to just ignore, to not engage on things that are not necessary, and to focus my attention and my energy in the ways that I need to, which is building these platforms, getting this word out there, sharing more of this information for people so that you guys are not left behind in these changes that are happening very hard and fast. If you are not used to change, if you are not used to dealing with these different situations, you are going to be left out. And if you are not apprised of the historical context within the scenario, because the historical context could happen in a minute, there's a lot going on, both like out in the universe and right here. And you have to be prepared for anything. We could have a Carrington effect any day. Any day. The sun could just be like, boop, bye technology, bye AI. Are you going to be able to function? Can you function within that and without it? So that's what matters, is not ditching what you have known, but you have to also come to terms with what is happening now. And you live within the present, knowing that any present that comes forth, you are prepared for. And you are ready to handle and to deal with it and accept it. And then move with it. And so, one of the things that I was reminded by that conversation with the gentleman was having that separate office where within the community, how doctors operated is, they went door to door. I'm like, why don't we have that now? This would be very practical right now. Like, we need this, but that isn't here anymore. But it can be. And that's kind of what we're moving towards again, as some of these changes are taking hold, even though it's a more technological forward inception of it. So when you know the past, you can understand a little bit of the future. But this future is a little murky. It's different. But it's not something to be scared of. It's something you just need to be aware of and present with. So I'm going to leave everyone with that. I'm going to end the live stream on the tube, and let's chat on the clock app. All right, everybody, have a good one on the tube of you.